When Layla Monroe, a gifted multilingual waitress struggling to make ends meet in Washington, D.C., serves the wrong table to the right person, her life changes forever. Sheikh Zayed Al Rami, a billionaire CEO from Dubai, expects nothing more than a quiet business dinner until a sharp-tongued server responds to his Arabic proposition in his own language. What begins as a clash of cultures and classes evolves into an unexpected romance that bridges two very different worlds. From the bustling restaurant floors of America to the golden deserts of Dubai, this is a story about love, ambition, and finding where you truly belong. Before we start this story, comment below from where you are watching us. The morning sun streamed through the small apartment window as Layla Monroe hurried to get ready for work. At 25, she was already tired of double shifts at Amir's, the fanciest Mediterranean restaurant in Washington, D.C. But the tips were good, and she needed every dollar. "Grandma, did you take your medicine?" Layla called out as she pulled her curly hair into a neat bun. "Yes, child. Stop worrying about me, and worry about being late again," her grandmother replied from the living room where she sat watching her morning shows. Layla smiled. Her grandmother had raised her after her parents died in a car accident when she was just 12. The old woman was all the family she had left, and she would do anything for her. "I made you lunch, it's in the fridge," Layla said, kissing her grandmother's cheek. "I'll be home late tonight. Big party reservation." "You work too hard," her grandmother sighed. "Your father would have wanted you to use those languages he taught you for something more than serving rich people food." Layla felt the familiar pang in her chest whenever her father was mentioned. He had been a brilliant linguist who spoke 6 languages fluently. Before he died, he had taught Layla 4: English, French, Spanish, and Arabic. The last one had been special between them, a connection to her father's studies in the Middle East. "Someday, Grandma. Right now we need the money." The bus ride to work was crowded as usual. Layla used the time to review Arabic vocabulary on her phone app. Even years after her father's death, she kept up with her languages, though few people knew about her talent. At the restaurant, she was just Layla the waitress, not Layla the polyglot who dreamed of becoming a professional interpreter. "You're cutting it close," said Marcus, the restaurant manager, as she rushed through the back door. "Big night tonight. Some foreign billionaire and his entourage. The boss wants everything perfect." Layla nodded, quickly changing into her black uniform. "Any special instructions?" "Just the usual. Smile, be polite, and don't mess up the orders," Marcus replied, checking his clipboard. "And Layla, these people are big tippers. Make them happy." The restaurant was buzzing with nervous energy. The kitchen staff worked double time and the servers whispered about the important guests. Apparently, Sheikh Zayed Al Rami, some big-shot CEO from Dubai, had chosen their restaurant for a business dinner. "He owns half of Dubai," she overheard one waiter say, "and he's only 32. "I heard he's single too," another waitress added with a giggle. "Imagine landing a guy like that." Layla rolled her eyes. She had no interest in rich men who thought their money could buy anything, or anyone. At exactly 7 o'clock, the front door opened, and the restaurant manager rushed forward with a wide smile. Layla watched from a distance as 5 well-dressed men entered. She could immediately tell which one was Sheikh Zayed. He didn't need to be the loudest or most flashy to command attention. He simply had that natural authority that made people notice him. He was tall with olive skin and dark eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. His suit probably cost more than Layla made in 6 months, but it was his calm confidence that struck her most. This was a man used to having power. "Ms. Monroe," Marcus called her over. "You'll be serving the Sheikh's table tonight." Layla's heart skipped a beat. "Why me? Isn't this more Michelle's territory?" Michelle usually handled the VIP tables. "The Sheikh specifically requested a female server, and you're the best we've got." Marcus lowered his voice. "Don't mess this up, Layla. This could mean big business for the restaurant." With a deep breath, Layla approached the table, notepad in hand. 5 pairs of eyes turned to look at her. "Good evening, gentlemen. My name is Layla, and I'll be your server tonight. Can I start you with some drinks?" She kept her voice professional and her smile polite. The men ordered expensive wines and cocktails, but when she turned to Sheikh Zayed, he looked directly into her eyes. Something in his gaze made her pulse quicken. "Water for now," he said in perfect English, though she detected the subtle accent. "But perhaps you could recommend a good wine to pair with whatever you think is best on the menu." "Of course, sir. Our lamb tagine is exceptional tonight, and I would pair it with the Lebanese Chateau Moussard." He nodded, seemingly impressed by her knowledge. The lady knows her wines very good. The dinner service went smoothly. Layla was efficient and professional, but she couldn't help noticing how Sheikh Zayed watched her whenever she approached the table. It wasn't the usual leering she sometimes got from men. It was something more curious. As she served the main course, one of the men in the group said something in Arabic that made the others laugh. Layla pretended not to understand, keeping her face neutral as she placed the dishes on the table. Then Sheikh Zayed leaned toward her, speaking in Arabic. His voice was low, meant only for her ears. "You're too beautiful to be just a waitress," he said in Arabic with a confident smile. "Perhaps when my meeting is done, you could show me the real Washington." The other men chuckled, clearly assuming she wouldn't understand a word. Layla froze for a split second. Then she raised an eyebrow and replied in perfect Arabic, "If I answered every man who mistook confidence for entitlement, I'd never leave this table." The table went silent. Sheikh Zayed's eyes widened in genuine surprise. Then, unexpectedly, he laughed. A real laugh, not the polite chuckle she'd heard earlier. "So you speak Arabic?" he asked, still in that language. "No," she replied coolly in English. "I speak truth." She turned to walk away, her heart pounding. She'd probably just gotten herself fired, but the look on his face had been worth it. Throughout the rest of the meal, she could feel Sheikh Zayed's eyes following her. The atmosphere at the table had changed. The other men seemed less relaxed, more formal, and Sheikh Zayed barely spoke to them, his attention clearly elsewhere. When it came time for dessert, he addressed her in English. "Ms. Layla, would you choose the dessert for the table? I trust your judgment." "The baklava is made fresh daily. It's my personal favorite," she replied. "Then baklava it is, for everyone." As the night wound down and the bill was paid, with a tip that made Layla's eyes widen, the Sheikh's companions left first. But Zayed lingered, waiting until she passed by his table again. "Miss Layla," he said, stopping her, "I owe you an apology." She hadn't expected that. Rich men like him rarely apologize to anyone, let alone waitresses. "It's forgotten, sir." "No, it's not," he insisted. "I made an assumption and spoke inappropriately. That was wrong of me." She studied his face, looking for signs of insincerity, but found none. "Apology accepted," she said finally. "May I ask where you learned to speak Arabic so beautifully? Your accent is exceptional. My father taught me. He was a linguist." "Was? He died when I was 12. Something in Sheikh Zayed's expression softened. "I'm sorry for your loss. He must have been a remarkable teacher." "He was a remarkable father," Layla corrected, surprised by her own openness. Sheikh Zayed nodded. "Even better." He stood up, towering over her. "I'm in Washington for 2 weeks on business. I'd like to dine here again. The restaurant would be happy to have you back, sir. And would you be happy to serve my table again, Ms. Layla?" Their eyes met, and for a moment, Layla felt something unexpected, a connection that went beyond customer and server. "That depends," she said honestly, "on whether you plan to speak to me in Arabic or English." A smile tugged at his lips. "I think we've established that either way you'll understand me perfectly." "Understanding words is easy," she replied. "Understanding people is harder." A wise observation. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a business card, placing it on the table. "If you ever decide you want more than this restaurant, call me. A mind like yours shouldn't be wasted carrying plates." With that, he walked out, leaving Layla staring at the elegant card with its gold-embossed lettering. She should throw it away. Men like him didn't offer jobs to women like her without expecting something in return, but she slipped the card into her pocket anyway. The next day, Layla couldn't stop thinking about Sheikh Zayed. His apology had seemed genuine, which surprised her. Men with that kind of money and power rarely admitted when they were wrong. "You're distracted today," her grandmother observed, as Layla washed breakfast dishes. "Is something bothering you?" "Just tired, Grandma," Layla replied, not ready to mention the handsome sheikh who had both annoyed and intrigued her. Her grandmother hummed, not believing her for a second. "When your mind is busy, your hands slow down. That's what your father always said." Layla smiled at the memory. "I miss him. He would be proud of you, child, but he would also tell you to follow your dreams, not just work to pay bills." Before Layla could respond, her phone rang. It was Marcus from the restaurant. "Layla, I need you to come in early today," he said without preamble. "Why? I'm not scheduled until 5. Sheikh Al-Rami just called. He's coming back tonight and he specifically requested you as his server. Just him. No business associates this time." Layla's heart skipped a beat. "He asked for me by name." "Yes, and he's offering to pay double your usual rate. Whatever you said to him last night must have made an impression. After hanging up, Layla sat in stunned silence. Why would he come back alone? And why ask for her? Good news? Her grandmother asked, watching her closely. I'm not sure, Layla admitted, but I guess I'll find out tonight. When she arrived at the restaurant, Marcus pulled her aside immediately. Listen, Layla, this is a big deal. Sheikh Al-Rami is not just rich, he's connected. If you make a good impression, it could mean big things for this restaurant and for you. I'm just doing my job, Marcus, nothing more. Well, do it better than ever tonight, he said, straightening her collar. He's already here. Sure enough, Sheikh Zayed sat alone at the best table in the restaurant, the one by the window with a view of the city lights. He was dressed more casually tonight, in dark slacks and a crisp white shirt with no tie. He looked up as she approached, and his face brightened with a smile. Ms. Layla, he said, standing politely, thank you for coming in early. It's my job, sir, she replied, trying to keep her voice professional despite the butterflies in her stomach. Please, call me Zayed. Sir makes me feel like my father. I prefer to maintain professional boundaries, Sheikh Al-Rami, she said firmly. He studied her face for a moment, then nodded. Fair enough, for now. The "for now" hung in the air between them, full of unspoken meaning. May I take your order? She asked, changing the subject. Actually, I was hoping you might choose for me. Something authentic that tourists don't usually get to try. Layla was surprised by the request. Are you sure you want to trust a waitress with your dinner selection? I'm trusting a woman who speaks perfect Arabic and isn't afraid to stand up to a sheikh, he corrected. That seems like someone with good judgment. Despite herself, Layla smiled. I'll see what the chef can do. She returned a few minutes later. Chef Amir is preparing you his grandmother's special recipe. It's not on the menu. Perfect, Zayed said. Then in Arabic, would you join me? The question caught her off guard. I'm working. I've already spoken to your manager. He says you're due for a break, and I've offered to compensate the restaurant for your time. Layla frowned. You can't just buy my time. I'm not trying to buy anything, he said, switching back to English. I'm simply asking for the pleasure of your company during dinner. 20 minutes of conversation. That's all. She should say no. This wasn't appropriate. And yet, there was something about him that made her curious. Why? She asked bluntly. Why me? Zayed looked at her thoughtfully before answering. Because you're the first person in a very long time who spoke to the man, not the name. Those words hit Layla harder than she expected. She recognized the loneliness behind them, the same loneliness she sometimes felt. 20 minutes, she agreed finally. But I eat standing up. I'm still on duty. He nodded, accepting her terms. When the food arrived, Zayed insisted she try it too. Your manager says you recommended this dish. You should enjoy it as well. Reluctantly, she took a small portion. So, he said as they ate, tell me about these other languages you speak. What makes you think I speak more than Arabic and English? The way you listen. People who know multiple languages have a different way of paying attention. Layla was impressed by his observation. My father taught me French and Spanish too. He believed languages were bridges between worlds. A wise man, Zayed said. My own father only cared that I learned English for business. Everything else was considered a waste of time. And what does your father think of your success now? Layla asked. A shadow crossed Zayed's face. He died 3 years ago. Heart attack during a board meeting. I'm sorry, she said sincerely. He died doing what he loved. Running the company, Zayed said with a hint of bitterness. He never understood there could be more to life. And do you? Layla challenged. Understand there's more to life than business? Zayed looked at her with those intense dark eyes. I'm beginning to. The 20 minutes passed quickly, and soon Layla was serving other tables again. But throughout the evening she could feel Zayed watching her, his eyes following her movements across the restaurant. When it was time for him to leave, he left another generous tip. But instead of his business card, this time he left a note. There's a cultural exhibition at the National Gallery tomorrow evening. Arabic poetry and art. Would you accompany me? As equals, not as sheikh and waitress. Just text yes or no to the number below. Zayed. Layla stared at the note for a long time after her shift ended. She should say no. Men like Zayed Al-Rami didn't date waitresses. They played with them and moved on. But then she remembered the loneliness in his eyes when he spoke about his father, the genuine interest when he asked about her languages, the respect in his voice when he apologized. Maybe, just maybe, there was more to Sheikh Zayed Al-Rami than his money and power. With trembling fingers, she typed a message on her phone. Yes, but I choose where we go after. Layla. His reply came seconds later. I wouldn't have it any other way. Layla put her phone down and looked out her apartment window at the city lights. She had no idea what she was getting herself into, but for the first time in years, she felt something she hadn't expected. Hope. Layla stood in front of her small closet, frustrated. Nothing she owned seemed right for a night out with a billionaire. Her best dress was 3 years old, bought on clearance for her cousin's wedding. Child, what are you doing in there? Her grandmother called from the living room. Trying to figure out what to wear, Layla replied, pulling out the black dress and frowning at it. Her grandmother appeared in the doorway, eyeing the dress in Layla's hands. So, you're finally going to tell me about this man who's got you all worked up. Layla sighed. She could never hide anything from her grandmother for long. His name is Zayed Al-Rami. He came to the restaurant as a customer. And now you're going on a date with him, her grandmother stated, not asking. It's not exactly a date. He invited me to a cultural exhibition, Arabic poetry and art. Her grandmother's eyebrows rose. Arabic, like what your father taught you? Yes, Layla admitted. He was surprised when I spoke to him in Arabic. I think that's why he's interested. And are you interested in him? Or just the fancy event? Layla sat on her bed, the dress in her lap. I don't know, Grandma. He's different. Not what I expected. Different how? He listens. Really listens. And there's something in his eyes, like he's searching for something money can't buy. Her grandmother nodded slowly. Your father had that same look when he first came back from his travels, hungry for something real. She pointed to the black dress. Wear that, with your mother's gold earrings. If this man is worth your time, he'll see past what you're wearing to who you are. The National Gallery was lit up beautifully when Layla arrived. She'd insisted on meeting Zayed there rather than having him pick her up. She wasn't ready to show him where she lived, her small apartment in a neighborhood far removed from his luxury hotel. She spotted him immediately, standing tall by the entrance in a dark suit. Several women glanced his way as they passed, but his eyes were scanning the crowd, looking for her. When he saw her, his face brightened with a genuine smile. Layla felt her heart skip a beat. How you came, he said as she approached, as if he'd half expected her to change her mind. I said I would, she replied simply. He offered his arm. Shall we? The exhibition was stunning. Ancient Arabic manuscripts, modern calligraphy, and artwork spanning centuries. As they walked through the gallery, Layla was surprised by Zayed's knowledge. I thought you said your father only cared about business English, she remarked, as he explained the meaning behind a piece of calligraphy. He did, Zayed replied, but my mother loved our culture's art. Before she died, she used to take me to museums like this, whenever my father was busy with work, which was most of the time. I'm sorry about your mother, Layla said softly. When did she pass away? When I was 16. Cancer. His voice was even, but Layla noticed how his jaw tightened. After that, there was only the business. They stopped in front of a display of poetry. Zayed read one of the verses aloud in Arabic, his voice rich and melodic. It's beautiful, Layla said. What does it mean? It's about finding a soul that speaks your language, even in silence. His eyes met hers. Like when you answered me in Arabic. You surprised me. I think that was the point, she admitted with a small smile. No one surprises me anymore, Layla. No one speaks to me without wanting something. Maybe you've been talking to the wrong people. He studied her face. Maybe I have. As they continued through the exhibition, Layla found herself relaxing. Zayed was easy to talk to, genuinely interested in her opinions about the artwork. He didn't try to impress her with his knowledge or his wealth. Instead, he asked questions and listened to her answers. You know a lot about this, he remarked as she explained the meaning behind a particular style of calligraphy. My father had books. After he died, I read them all, trying to hold on to him somehow. The admission was more personal than she'd intended. And did it work? Did you feel closer to him? Layla touched the delicate gold earrings her grandmother had insisted she wear. Sometimes, when I speak Arabic, I can almost hear his voice correcting my pronunciation. Zayed's hand found hers. Just a light touch. He would be proud of you. Your Arabic is flawless. The warmth of his fingers against hers sent a small shiver up Layla's arm. She gently pulled away, not ready for that kind of connection yet. You said I could choose where we go after this, Zayed reminded her as they finished viewing the exhibition. I did, Layla confirmed, and I know exactly where to take you. 30 minutes later, Zayed looked dubiously at the small hole-in-the-wall restaurant Layla had brought him to. The sign above the door simply read, Mama's Kitchen, in faded letters. Trust me, Layla said, noting his expression. Best food in DC. Yes, but tourists never find it. Inside, the restaurant was cramped but clean, with mismatched tables and chairs. A large woman with grey hair pulled back in a tight bun looked up from behind the counter and broke into a wide smile. Layla, mi querida. She rushed over and enveloped Layla in a tight hug. It's been too long. Hello, Mama Rosa, Layla said, returning the hug. This is my friend, Zayed. I wanted him to taste real food, not the fancy stuff we serve at Amir's. Mama Rosa looked Zayed up and down, taking in his expensive suit and polished shoes. Too skinny. We fix that. She turned and shouted something in rapid Spanish to someone in the kitchen. Zayed leaned close to Layla. What did she say? Layla grinned. She said you look like you need feeding and she's going to make sure you don't leave hungry. You speak Spanish too? Zayed asked, impressed. And French. My father believed in being prepared for the world. Mama Rosa led them to a small table in the corner. Special table for Layla and her friend. I bring food, no menu. You eat what I make. Is that okay? Layla asked Zayed after Mama Rosa disappeared into the kitchen. It's perfect, he replied, looking around with genuine interest. How did you find this place? Mama Rosa gave me my first job when I was 16, washing dishes on weekends. She taught me Spanish while we worked. Layla smiled at the memory. She also made sure I ate a proper meal every shift, said I was too skinny. She reminds me of my housekeeper growing up, Zayed said. Fatima. She was the only one who treated me like a normal boy, not the heir to an empire. Do you miss that? Being treated normally? Zayed considered the question. I never realized how much until you put me in my place at the restaurant. His eyes crinkled with amusement. It was refreshing. The food started arriving. Platters of homemade empanadas, slow-cooked stews, rice dishes fragrant with spices, and fresh-baked bread. Zayed's eyes widened at the feast. This is incredible, he said after the first bite, genuine surprise in his voice. Better than the five-star restaurants you usually eat at, Layla teased. Much better. This has soul. He took another bite, closing his eyes to savor it. Food should tell a story. This does. As they ate, Layla found herself opening up more about her life, her parents' accident, growing up with her grandmother, her dream of becoming an interpreter. Why haven't you pursued it? Zayed asked. With your talent for languages, you could work for the UN, international businesses, diplomatic services. Layla shrugged, trying to hide the old pain. Dreams cost money. After my father died, there was barely enough for basic bills. My grandmother's medical expenses took priority over college tuition. But now you're clearly intelligent and capable. Now I work double shifts to pay rent and keep my grandmother comfortable. Layla looked down at her plate. Dreams don't pay bills. They can, Zayed said quietly, with the right opportunity. Layla looked up sharply. I don't want your charity. I'm not offering charity. I'm talking about opportunity. He leaned forward. My company is expanding in the US. We need people who understand both cultures, both languages, someone who can bridge worlds. And you think that's me? A waitress you just met? I think you're wasting your talent carrying plates, he said bluntly. And I think you know it too. Before Layla could respond, Mama Rosa returned with dessert. Sweet fried pastries drizzled with honey. You eat, she commanded. Talk about serious things later. The interruption broke the tension, and they both laughed. The rest of the meal passed pleasantly, with Zayed telling stories about growing up in Dubai and the culture shock of attending boarding school in England. I hated the cold, he admitted, and the food. I used to dream about my mother's cooking. Do you cook? Layla asked. Zayed laughed. Me? No, I've never even tried. There were always people to do that for me. Never? Not even scrambled eggs? He shook his head, looking slightly embarrassed. I wouldn't know where to begin. That's sad, Layla said honestly. There's something special about making food with your own hands. It connects you to what sustains you. When it was time to leave, Zayed insisted on paying, slipping Mama Rosa far more money than the meal cost. The older woman tried to refuse, but he spoke to her in Spanish, making her laugh and finally accept. What did you say to her? Layla asked as they left. I told her that in my country, it's considered bad luck to refuse the gratitude of a well-fed man. He smiled. I may not speak Spanish as well as you, but I know enough to be polite. Outside, the night had grown cool. Zayed immediately removed his jacket and placed it around Layla's shoulders despite her protests. My driver can take you home, he offered. No, Layla said firmly. I'll take the bus. It's not far. The bus? At this hour? Zayed frowned. At least let me call you a taxi. I take the bus every night after my shift, she reminded him. This is my life, Zayed, the real world. He looked troubled. At least let me walk you to the bus stop. She agreed to that compromise. As they walked, their hands brushed against each other, and this time Layla didn't pull away when Zayed's fingers gently intertwined with hers. I'm leaving for New York tomorrow, he said. Business meetings, but I'll be back in D.C. in 3 days. Oh, Layla said, trying to hide her disappointment. Well, have a good trip. Would you have dinner with me when I return? Not at Amir's. Somewhere we can both just be ourselves. The bus stop came into view, and Layla stopped walking. Why me, Zayed? Really? He turned to face her, still holding her hand. Because when I'm with you, I don't feel like Sheikh Al-Rami, the billionaire CEO. I feel like Zayed, the man, and that hasn't happened in a very long time. His honesty touched something deep inside her. Before she could talk herself out of it, Layla stood on her tiptoes and pressed a soft kiss to his cheek. Yes, she said, I'll have dinner with you when you get back. The smile that lit up his face made her heart flutter. I'll call you. You don't have my number, she realized. He grinned. You texted me, remember? I have yours. The bus arrived, and Layla reluctantly gave him back his jacket. Goodbye, Zayed. Not goodbye, he corrected. Just until next time. She boarded the bus and found a seat by the window. Zayed stood at the stop, watching as the bus pulled away. He lifted his hand in a wave, and she waved back, a strange mix of excitement and anxiety swirling in her stomach. What was she doing? Men like Zayed didn't end up with women like her. This wasn't a fairy tale, and yet, the way he looked at her made her wonder if maybe, just maybe, there could be something real between them. When she got home, her grandmother was still up, pretending to watch TV but clearly waiting for Layla's return. So? The older woman asked. How was your not-a-date? Layla sank onto the couch beside her. It was nice. Really nice. Just nice? Her grandmother raised an eyebrow. He's different than I expected. More real. Layla twisted her hands in her lap. He offered me a job. Said his company needs someone who speaks Arabic and understands both cultures. And? Her grandmother prompted. What did you say? Nothing yet, but he's coming back in 3 days. We're having dinner again. Her grandmother patted her hand. Your father always said opportunities don't knock twice. This might be more than just a job offer, but it's at least that. Don't let pride stand in the way of a better life. It's not pride, Grandma, it's fear. Layla finally admitted what had been bothering her. What if I take a chance on him on this and it all falls apart? What if he gets bored with me? Men like him don't stay with women like me. Men like who? Women like who? Her grandmother's voice sharpened. You think because he has money and you don't, he's somehow better, or that you're not worthy. That's not what I meant. Listen to me, child. Your worth isn't in your bank account. It's in here. She tapped Layla's chest. And if this man can see that worth, then maybe he deserves a chance. And if he can't, if he hurts you, then your heart will heal, and you'll be stronger for having taken the risk. Layla hugged her grandmother tightly. When did you get so wise? I've always been wise. You're just finally old enough to notice. The 3 days Zayed was in New York felt longer than Layla expected. She found herself checking her phone more often than usual, and each time he texted, little messages about his day or questions about hers, she felt a warmth spread through her chest. On the second day, flowers arrived at the restaurant, a simple arrangement of desert roses with a note, counting the hours, Zid. Marcus, the restaurant manager, raised his eyebrows when the delivery came. Sheikh Al-Rami sending you flowers now. Should I be worried about losing my best waitress? Layla just smiled and put the flowers in water. That night, Zayed called instead of texting. They talked for over an hour, about his meetings in New York, about a difficult customer Layla had dealt with, about books they'd both read. It felt comfortable, as if they'd known each other much longer than just a few days. I miss you, he said near the end of the call. Is that strange, to miss someone I've only just met? Yes, Layla replied honestly, but I miss you too. So maybe we're both strange. When he returned to D.C., he took her to a small private restaurant where the chef cooked at their table. Zayed was more relaxed than she'd seen him before, telling jokes and stories that made her laugh. I have something to ask you, he said as they finished their meal. It's a bit unexpected. Layla felt suddenly nervous. What is it? There's a cultural event in Dubai next week, very important for my business connections. I'd like you to come with me. Layla nearly choked on her water. To Dubai? As in fly halfway around the world Dubai? Yes. He looked completely serious. All expenses paid, of course. You'd stay in the guest wing of my family home, separate and private. Zayed, I can't just fly to Dubai with you. I have responsibilities here. My job, my grandmother. It would only be for 5 days. And regarding your job, this could be an opportunity to see if what I suggested might work. You using your language skills professionally. As what? Your translator? As my cultural liaison, he corrected. Many of the people attending this event are traditional. They appreciate when visitors make an effort to understand their customs, speak their language. Your skills would be invaluable. Layla shook her head in disbelief. This is crazy. We barely know each other. Then this is a chance to change that. He reached across the table and took her hand. Layla, I'm not asking for anything inappropriate. This is a professional opportunity that could benefit us both. And yes, I want to spend more time with you. I'm not going to pretend otherwise. What about my grandmother? I can't leave her alone. Would she be comfortable with a home health aide for a few days? The best care, of course. Layla pulled her hand away. I can't just throw money at every problem, Zayed. I'm not trying to. He looked frustrated. I'm trying to remove obstacles, not by your agreement. There's a difference. They sat in tense silence for a moment. Let me think about it, Layla finally said. This is a lot to process. Of course. He nodded. Take all the time you need. But the event is next Saturday, so not too much time, she finished for him, managing a small smile. When Layla explained the situation to her grandmother that night, she expected resistance. Instead, the older woman seemed excited. Dubai, your father would be so proud. He always wanted to visit the Middle East again. Grandma, I can't leave you alone for 5 days. Why not? I'm old, not helpless. She waved her hand dismissively. Besides, Maritza from church has been offering to stay with me whenever you need a break. This is perfect timing. This isn't about taking a break. It's about flying to another country with a man I just met. A man who respects you enough to offer you separate accommodations and a professional opportunity. Her grandmother fixed her with a knowing look. Unless you're worried you won't want separate accommodations. Grandma, Layla felt her cheeks flush. I'm old, not blind. The way you talk about him, the way your face lights up when your phone rings. You care for this man. Even if I do, it doesn't change the fact that we come from completely different worlds. So did your parents, her grandmother reminded her. Your father was a professor, your mother a waitress. Everyone said it wouldn't last. They were married for 14 wonderful years before God took them home. Later that night, Layla sat on her bed, staring at her phone. Finally, she typed a message to Zayed. If I come to Dubai with you, I want to be clear. This is a professional arrangement, not a romantic getaway. His reply came quickly. Completely understood. Professional boundaries will be respected. Does this mean you'll come? Layla took a deep breath and typed, Yes, but I have conditions. Name them, he responded. I pay my own way home if I'm uncomfortable at any point, no questions asked. Agreed. And I want a formal agreement about my role as your cultural liaison, with fair compensation. There was a longer pause before his reply. I'll have my lawyer draft something tomorrow. Is there anything else? Layla hesitated, then typed, Yes, be honest with me, always, no matter what. This time, his response was immediate. I promise. Thank you for trusting me, Layla. I won't let you down. She put her phone down, her heart racing. Was she making a huge mistake? Or was this the opportunity of a lifetime, both professionally and personally? Only time would tell. But as she drifted off to sleep, Layla couldn't help but smile at the thought of seeing Dubai through Zayed's eyes, of being by his side in his world as he had been in hers, of bridges being built between their separate lives, and maybe, just maybe, finding out if what she was beginning to feel for him could grow into something real and lasting. Layla stared out the airplane window as Dubai came into view, a glittering metropolis rising from the desert like a mirage. The city's famous skyscrapers pierced the clouds, their glass surfaces reflecting the sun. It was nothing like Washington, D.C. First time seeing Dubai? Zayed asked from the seat beside her. They were flying in his private jet, an experience that had left Layla speechless when she first boarded. It's beautiful, she admitted, like something from a science fiction movie. Zayed smiled. Wait until you see it up close. The contrast between old and new is what makes Dubai special. Ancient traditions alongside modern innovation. The plane landed smoothly, and Layla was surprised when they bypassed the main terminal. Instead, a sleek black car was waiting on the tarmac. "No customs?" she asked as they walked toward the car. "One of the perks of being—" Zayed hesitated. "A billionaire?" Layla finished for him. He looked slightly embarrassed. "I was going to say, a citizen with business connections, but yes, essentially." The drive from the airport revealed two sides of Dubai: the ultra-modern downtown with its impossibly tall buildings, and glimpses of the older neighborhoods with their traditional architecture. Layla tried to take it all in, aware of Zayed watching her reactions. "What do you think so far?" he asked. "It's overwhelming," she admitted, "in a good way. Everything is so grand." "Not everything," he said. "I'll show you the real Dubai too, not just the tourist postcard version." The car turned onto a private road lined with palm trees, then through an ornate gate. Layla's eyes widened as Zayed's family home came into view, a sprawling mansion that combined traditional Arabian architecture with modern luxury. "This is where you grew up?" she asked, unable to hide her amazement. "One of our homes," Zayed replied. "My father preferred the one in the city, closer to the business headquarters, but my mother loved this place. After she died, I made it my primary residence." A staff of at least 10 people was waiting to greet them when they arrived. Zayed introduced each one by name, speaking to them in a mixture of Arabic and English. Layla noticed how they all seemed genuinely pleased to see him, not just respectful of his position. An older woman stepped forward last. Unlike the others in their uniforms, she wore a traditional black abaya with intricate embroidery. Her face was lined with age, but her eyes were sharp and assessing as they took in Layla. "Ms. Munro, this is Fatima," Zayed said. "She's been with my family since before I was born, more a second mother than a housekeeper." "Welcome to our home," Fatima said in Arabic, her voice warm but her gaze still evaluating. "Thank you for your hospitality," Layla replied in the same language. "Your home is beautiful." Fatima's eyebrows rose in surprise, and she glanced at Zayed with new interest. "You didn't tell me she speaks our language," she said to him in Arabic. "I wanted you to discover her talents for yourself," he replied with a smile. Fatima turned back to Layla. "Come, I will show you to your rooms. You must be tired after your journey." The guest wing Zayed had mentioned turned out to be a luxurious suite larger than Layla's entire apartment. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered views of the garden and the distant city skyline. The bathroom alone was bigger than her bedroom at home. "This is too much," she said when they were alone, Fatima having left to arrange for tea to be brought up. "It's just a room, Layla," Zayed replied. "No, it's not. It's a statement. About wealth. About power." She gestured around them. "This isn't just a room. It's a lifestyle I know nothing about." Zayed sat on one of the plush sofas. "Does it make you uncomfortable?" "Yes," she admitted. "But not for the reason you might think. I'm not intimidated by your money. I'm worried about what it means for whatever this is between us." "What do you think it means?" Layla sat across from him. "That we come from completely different worlds. That eventually those differences will matter." "They only matter if we let them," Zayed said, leaning forward. "Layla, I didn't bring you here to impress you with my wealth. I brought you here because when I'm with you, none of this," he gestured around the room, "matters as much as it used to." A knock at the door interrupted them. A young maid entered with a tray of tea and pastries, setting it down before quickly leaving. "The event is tomorrow evening," Zayed said, pouring tea for both of them. "Today, I thought I could show you around. The real Dubai, like I promised." "I'd like that," Layla said. "But first, I need you to be honest with me about something." "Anything. What exactly am I doing here? You said cultural liaison, but what does that actually mean?" Zayed set down his cup. "Tomorrow night, I'm hosting representatives from several traditional Arab families. Old money, old values. They're potential investors in a new project, a chain of cultural centers across America that would help build bridges between our worlds. Teaching language, art, history. And what does that have to do with me? These men respect tradition, but they also need to see that I understand the American market. You speak their language, understand their customs, but you also represent the American perspective. Your insight would be valuable. So I'm a prop," Layla said flatly. "An American who speaks Arabic to impress your investors." Zayed frowned. "No, you're a talented linguist whose opinion I value. This is a legitimate professional opportunity, Layla. The position I mentioned before, this could be your interview." "And what exactly would this position entail?" "Initially, helping to develop the cultural program for these centers. Eventually, perhaps overseeing the entire educational component. It would require travel between Dubai and the US, fluency in Arabic, and a deep understanding of both cultures, All things you possess. Layla was quiet for a moment, processing this information. And the salary. More than fair. My lawyer has drawn up the paperwork as you requested. He reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope. All the details are here. Take your time reviewing it. She accepted the envelope. Thank you for being straightforward. I promise to be honest always, he reminded her. Now shall we see Dubai? The day that followed was unlike anything Layla had ever experienced. Zayed showed her both sides of his city, the tourist attractions like the Burj Khalifa and the Dubai Mall, but also the older neighborhoods where traditional life continued much as it had for generations. They visited the spice souk, where merchants called out to passers-by in a dozen languages. Zayed seemed to know many of them by name, stopping to chat and introduce Layla. She was surprised by how easily he moved through the crowded market, how comfortable he seemed away from the luxury of his mansion. You're different here, she observed, as they walked along the Dubai Creek, watching the traditional wooden boats being loaded with cargo. How so? More relaxed. More yourself, I think. Zayed nodded. My father never understood why I loved this part of Dubai. He was always focused on the new, the modern, the impressive. But my mother used to bring me here as a child. She said to understand where we're going, we must never forget where we came from. She sounds wise, Layla said. She was. His eyes grew distant with memory. She would have liked you. They had lunch at a small family-owned restaurant where the owner greeted Zayed with a hug and insisted on serving them himself. The food was simple but delicious, nothing like the fancy meals Layla had imagined they would eat. Best shawarma in Dubai, Zayed declared as they finished eating. Maybe the world. Definitely better than what we serve at Amir's, Layla agreed. Don't tell my boss I said that. By late afternoon, they had made their way back to the modern part of the city. Zayed suggested they watch the sunset from the beach behind his home. The light here is different than anywhere else, he said, as they walked along the private shoreline. When the sun hits the water just right, it looks like the ocean is on fire. Sure enough, as the sun began to set, the water turned a brilliant gold, then orange, then deep red. Layla had never seen anything so beautiful. Thank you for today, she said quietly, for showing me your world. Thank you for wanting to see it. Zayed's voice was equally soft. Most people only care about the glamorous side of Dubai, the shopping, the luxury hotels. I'm not most people. No, he agreed, his eyes finding hers. You're not. There was a moment, just a heartbeat, when Layla thought he might kiss her. Instead, he took her hand, his thumb gently tracing circles on her skin. We should head back, he said finally. There's a dinner tonight. Some family, some business associates, nothing formal but a chance for you to meet people before tomorrow's event. I didn't bring anything fancy to wear, Layla said, suddenly concerned. Zayed smiled. Don't worry. I may have arranged for some options to be delivered to your room. Zayed, before you object, consider it part of your compensation as my cultural liaison, proper attire for business functions. Layla shook her head, but couldn't help smiling. You think of everything, don't you? I try to. When they returned to the house, Fatima was waiting for Layla. The older woman led her back to her suite, where several garment bags were hanging. The young master asked me to help you select something for tonight, Fatima explained, unzipping the first bag to reveal a stunning blue dress, though I suspect he will approve of whatever you choose. He's very thoughtful, Layla said, touching the delicate fabric. Yes, Fatima agreed, watching Layla closely, more so since he met you. What do you mean? I have known Zayed since he was born. I have never seen him bring a woman home to meet his family. Only business associates and the occasional social connection his father forced upon him. It's not like that, Layla said, feeling her cheeks warm. No? Fatima raised an eyebrow. Then he has changed even more than I thought. The Zayed I know does not look at business associates the way he looks at you. Before Layla could respond, Fatima unzipped another garment bag. This one, I think. The color will suit you. The dress was a deep emerald green, simple but elegant. When Layla tried it on, even she had to admit it was perfect, modest enough for a family dinner but still beautiful. You have good taste, she told Fatima. I have good eyes, the older woman corrected, and I can see what Zayed sees in you. It is not just your pretty face or your language skills, it is your heart. The dinner that evening was held in a large dining room with views of the garden, now lit with subtle landscape lighting. About 20 people were in attendance, most of them members of Zayed's extended family. Layla was seated beside him at the long table, with Fatima on her other side. My cousin Rashid, Zayed murmured, nodding toward a man across the table. His father was my father's brother. The young woman next to him is his wife, Amara. Layla tried to keep track of all the names and relationships, grateful when people spoke to her in English or the Arabic she understood. Some of the older relatives conversed in a regional dialect she wasn't familiar with, but they made an effort to include her. "So, Ms. Monroe," Rashid said during the main course, "Zayed tells us you're a linguistic expert. How many languages do you speak?" "4 fluently," Layla replied. "English, Arabic, French and Spanish." "Impressive for an American," Rashid remarked. "Most can barely manage their own language." There was a hint of condescension in his tone that Layla chose to ignore. "My father was a linguist. He believed languages were the key to understanding other cultures." "A wise man," said an older gentleman at the end of the table. "I am Zayed's uncle Ibrahim. Your Arabic is excellent. Where did you study?" "I didn't, formally," Layla admitted. "My father taught me until he passed away when I was 12. After that, I continued learning on my own." "Self-taught. Even more impressive." Ibrahim nodded approvingly. "And what is your profession now? University professor? Translator for your government?" Layla hesitated. "Currently, I work as a waitress at a restaurant in Washington, D.C. That's where I met Zayed." A silence fell over the table. Layla could feel the shift in the atmosphere, the re-evaluation happening behind polite smiles. "A waitress," Rashid's wife, Amara, repeated, as if she hadn't heard correctly. "Yes," Layla said, lifting her chin slightly. "At a Mediterranean restaurant." "How quaint," Amara murmured, exchanging a glance with her husband. "Layla is considering a position with my new cultural initiative," Zayed said smoothly. "Her experience working with people from diverse backgrounds is exactly what the project needs." The conversation moved on, but Layla noticed how some of the family members now looked at her differently, with curiosity or, in some cases, thinly veiled judgment. After dinner, the group moved to a large sitting room for coffee and dessert. Layla excused herself to use the restroom, needing a moment alone to collect her thoughts. As she was returning, she heard voices coming from a small alcove off the main hallway. She would have walked past, but she heard her name and stopped. "Monroe? A waitress, Zayed? Really?" It was Rashid's voice. "Your father would be appalled." "My father is not here," Zayed replied, his tone cool. "And Layla is more than her current job." "Of course she is," a female voice, Amara, said with fake sweetness. "She's a pretty American girl who happens to speak Arabic. How convenient that she served your table that night, almost as if she planned it." "What exactly are you implying?" Zayed's voice had an edge to it now. "Only that there are many women who would be interested in your position," Rashid said. "Women from good families with proper backgrounds, not servers from restaurants." "She's clearly after your money," Amara added. "Why else would a waitress be here? You're being naive, cousin." "You know nothing about her," Zayed said, his voice tight with anger. "Nothing about her character, her intelligence, her dignity." "I know she doesn't belong in our world," Rashid replied. "She's temporary, American and beneath you. A distraction, nothing more." Layla had heard enough. Her cheeks burning with humiliation, she turned and walked quickly back the way she had come. She didn't want to face anyone right now, especially not Zayed. She needed air, space to think. Finding a side door, she slipped out into the garden. The night air was cool against her flushed skin as she walked along a path lit by small lanterns. She found a bench near a fountain and sat down, trying to calm her racing heart. They were right, of course. She didn't belong here, in this world of wealth and privilege. What had she been thinking? Coming to Dubai with a man she barely knew, developing feelings for someone whose life was so different from her own. She was so lost in these thoughts that she didn't hear the footsteps approaching until Fatima spoke. "The nights get cold here in the desert," the older woman said, draping a shawl around Layla's shoulders before sitting beside her. "Even in summer?" "Thank you," Layla said, pulling the soft fabric closer. "You heard Rashid and his wife," Fatima stated, not a question. Layla nodded, not trusting her voice. "They are fools," Fatima said bluntly. "Rashid has always been jealous of Zayed, and Amara," she made a dismissive gesture. "She thinks a good family name and expensive clothes make a person worthy. She knows nothing of real worth." "But they're not wrong," Layla said quietly. "I don't belong here. This isn't my world." "And what world is that? The world of good people, of intelligent conversation, of respect for others?" Fatima shook her head. "Those should be everyone's world. You know what I mean. All this," Layla gestured at the mansion behind them, "the wealth, the privilege. I'm a waitress from a small apartment in Washington who wears second-hand clothes and takes the bus to work. And I am the daughter of a goat herder from a village so small it's not on any map, Fatima replied. Yet here I am, respected in this house, loved by the family I have served for 40 years. We make our place in the world through who we are, not what we have. They sat in silence for a moment, listening to the gentle splash of the fountain. He's looking for you, Fatima said finally. Zayed, he was quite angry with Rashid. I don't want to cause problems between him and his family. Family is not always those who share your blood, Fatima said, standing up. Sometimes it is those who share your heart. She nodded toward the path. He comes now, I will leave you to talk. Sure enough, Zayed appeared around the bend in the path, his face tight with concern. When he saw Layla, relief washed over his features. There you are, I've been looking everywhere. He approached the bench. May I sit? Layla nodded, making room for him. I'm sorry about Rashid and Amara, he said, his voice low with anger. What they said was unforgivable. You know I overheard? Fatima told me. She saw you in the hallway. He sighed. I should have warned you about Rashid. He's always been difficult. He was honest, at least, Layla said, about how your family sees me, how they'll always see me. He doesn't speak for my family, and he certainly doesn't speak for me. Zayed turned to face her. Layla, look at me. She met his eyes reluctantly. I don't care what Rashid thinks. I don't care what anyone thinks. What I care about is how I feel when I'm with you, how for the first time in years I'm excited about tomorrow, how you make me laugh, make me think, make me want to be better than I am. Zayed, let me finish. He took her hands in his. I know we come from different worlds. I know there are obstacles, but I've spent my whole life surrounded by people who want something from me. My money, my connections, my family name. You're the first person in a very long time who just wants me. The sincerity in his voice made Layla's heart ache. I'm scared, she admitted. Not of Rashid or what people think. I'm scared of feeling this way about you, of how much it will hurt when reality sets in and this ends. Who says it has to end? Be realistic, Zayed. You live here running a global empire. I live in a tiny apartment with my grandmother, serving tables. Details, he said dismissively. Jobs change, homes change. What matters is what doesn't change, how we feel about each other. And how do you feel? Layla asked, suddenly needing to hear him say it. Zayed's expression softened. I think I'm falling in love with you, Layla Monroe, and it terrifies me as much as it thrills me. The words hung in the air between them, honest and raw. Layla felt tears spring to her eyes. Say something, he urged when she remained silent. I don't know what to say, she whispered. Except that I'm feeling things I never expected to feel for you, and I don't know what to do about it. Zayed reached up and gently brushed a tear from her cheek. You don't have to do anything. Just don't run away. Not yet. Give us a chance to figure this out together. Slowly, Layla nodded. Okay. The relief on his face was immediate. He leaned forward and finally pressed his lips to hers in a gentle kiss. It was brief but perfect. A promise. A beginning. When they broke apart, Layla couldn't help but smile. What will Rashid say? Who cares? Zayed grinned. Though I admit, I wouldn't mind if he saw us right now. They both laughed, the tension of the evening dissolving. It's getting late, Zayed said, standing and offering his hand. Tomorrow is an important day, we should both get some rest. Hand in hand, they walked back toward the house. As they reached the door, Layla stopped. Zayed, yes? Thank you for defending me, for seeing me as more than what I do for a living. I see you for exactly who you are, Layla, and who you are is extraordinary. With those words echoing in her mind, Layla allowed him to lead her back into the house. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, she knew. The cultural event, the investors, the chance to possibly change her entire future. But for now, tonight, walking beside this man who was quickly becoming essential to her happiness, Layla felt a certainty she hadn't expected, that whatever happened next, she wouldn't face it alone, and that made all the difference in the world. The morning of the cultural event arrived, with golden sunlight streaming through the windows of Layla's suite. She had slept surprisingly well despite the emotional roller coaster of the previous evening. Zayed's words, I think I'm falling in love with you, had replayed in her mind as she drifted off to sleep. A soft knock at the door announced Fatima's arrival with breakfast. Good morning, the older woman said, setting down a tray of fresh fruit, pastries and coffee. Did you sleep well? Better than I expected, Layla admitted. Fatima nodded approvingly. Good. Today is important. You will need your strength and your wits. She poured coffee into a delicate cup and handed it to Layla. "The young master has been up since dawn, making arrangements. He is very particular about this event." "He seems to take everything seriously," Layla observed. "Not everything," Fatima corrected. "Not until recently. Zayed has always been responsible about business, yes, but his heart, that he has kept locked away until you." Before Layla could respond, Fatima continued, "He has asked me to help you prepare for tonight. A stylist will come this afternoon. The dress is already here." She walked to the closet and opened it, revealing a garment bag much larger than the ones from yesterday. Carefully she unzipped it to reveal a stunning gown in deep burgundy. The design was modern but modest, with intricate gold embroidery around the neckline that reminded Layla of traditional Arabic patterns. "It's beautiful," Layla breathed, touching the fabric gently. "Yes," Fatima agreed, "and appropriate for both cultures. Like you." She smiled knowingly. "Zayed chose it himself. He said the color reminded him of desert roses." After breakfast, Layla reviewed the papers Zayed had given her about the Cultural Center project. The more she read, the more excited she became. This wasn't just a vanity project for a bored billionaire. It was thoughtful, comprehensive, and genuinely aimed at building understanding between cultures. The position he had described would use all her skills and challenge her to develop new ones. But could she really leave her life in Washington behind? What about her grandmother? And what about her relationship with Zayed? Would working for him complicate things even more? These questions were still swirling in her mind when Zayed called to check on her. "How are you feeling about tonight?" he asked. "Nervous," she admitted, "but also excited. I've been reading about the project. It's impressive, Zayed." "I'm glad you think so. Your opinion matters to me." There was a pause. "About last night, you don't need to say anything," Layla interrupted, suddenly afraid he might regret his confession. "Yes, I do," he insisted. "I meant every word, Layla, but I don't want you to feel pressured. About us or about the job, they're separate things. I want you to know that." His reassurance eased some of her anxiety. "Thank you. That helps. I have meetings until late afternoon, but I'll come by before the event. We can go together." After they hung up, Layla spent the rest of the morning and early afternoon exploring the gardens of Zayed's estate. The sprawling grounds were a perfect blend of desert landscape and carefully cultivated greenery. She found a quiet spot by a small pond where colorful fish darted beneath lily pads, and sat there reading more about the cultural centers. The project was ambitious, 10 centers across major American cities, each offering language classes, art exhibitions, cultural exchanges, and business networking. If successful, it could create genuine connections between the Arab world and the United States, breaking down stereotypes on both sides. Later, as promised, a stylist arrived to help Layla prepare for the evening. The woman, Nadia, was friendly and professional, asking Layla's preferences as she styled her hair and applied subtle makeup. "You must be someone special," Nadia remarked as she worked. "Sheikh Al-Rami rarely invites foreign guests to these events, especially women. We're working together on a project," Layla explained, not sure how else to describe her relationship with Zayed. Nadia smiled knowingly, but said nothing more. When the styling was complete, and Layla had changed into the beautiful gown, she barely recognized herself in the mirror. The dress fit perfectly, highlighting her figure while remaining elegant and appropriate. Her hair was partially up, with soft curls framing her face. The makeup enhanced her features without being overdone. "You look beautiful," said a voice from the doorway. Layla turned to find Zayed standing there, handsome in a perfectly tailored black suit with subtle traditional elements. His eyes were warm as they took in her appearance. "Thank you," she said, suddenly shy. "You look pretty good yourself." He crossed the room and took her hands in his. "Are you ready for this?" "As ready as I'll ever be. Just tell me what you need me to do." "Be yourself," he said simply. "That's all I've ever wanted." The event was being held in the grand ballroom of Zayed's estate, a space Layla hadn't seen until now. Crystal chandeliers hung from high ceilings, casting a warm glow over the marble floors. Elegant floral arrangements adorned tables covered in white linen. A small orchestra played soft music in one corner. As they entered, Layla was aware of all eyes turning toward them. Zayed placed his hand gently on the small of her back, a subtle gesture of support that gave her courage. "Sheikh Al-Rami," a distinguished older man approached, extending his hand. "A pleasure to see you again." "Minister Farouk," Zayed greeted him with respect. "May I introduce Ms. Layla Monroe?" "Layla, Minister Farouk oversees cultural affairs for the United Arab Emirates." "An honor to meet you, sir," Layla said in Arabic, inclining her head slightly. The minister's eyebrows rose in pleased surprise. "You speak our language beautifully, Ms. Monroe. Where did you study?" As Layla explained about her father, she saw approval in the minister's eyes. Their conversation flowed easily from Arabic to English and back again as they discussed cultural differences and similarities between their countries. "Sheikh Al-Rami tells me you might be involved with his new cultural initiative," the minister said. "We need more people like you who can bridge worlds." "That's very kind of you to say," Layla replied. "Not kind, honest." The minister smiled. "I look forward to seeing what you accomplish together." As the evening progressed, Layla was introduced to dozens of people, government officials, business leaders, cultural figures. To her surprise, she found herself not just keeping up, but thriving in these conversations. Her language skills opened doors, but it was her genuine interest in people and cultures that kept those doors open. Zayed stayed close, occasionally guiding her to meet someone new, but mostly letting her navigate on her own. She could see the pride in his eyes whenever she switched effortlessly between languages or made a particularly insightful comment about cultural differences. Even Rashid seemed impressed, though he tried to hide it. Layla had seen him watching her from across the room, his expression unreadable. His wife, Amara, was less subtle, her disapproval evident in her tight smile and cold eyes. Midway through the evening, Zayed clinked his glass to call for attention. The room quieted as he moved to the center. "Honored guests, family, friends," he began in Arabic, then switched to English. "Thank you for joining us tonight. As many of you know, this gathering is more than just a social occasion. It represents the beginning of an important journey, one that I believe will benefit both our region and the United States." He went on to outline the Cultural Center project, speaking with passion about building bridges between societies. Layla watched him with growing admiration. This wasn't the polished businessman speaking. This was the man she was falling in love with, sharing his genuine vision for a better world. "I believe understanding begins with language," Zayed continued, "with the ability to hear another's words as they were meant to be heard, not filtered through translation. To that end, I've been fortunate to find someone who embodies the very spirit of this project." His eyes found Layla in the crowd. "Ms. Monroe, would you join me?" Surprised, Layla made her way to his side, her heart pounding. "Layla speaks 4 languages fluently," Zayed told the audience. "But more importantly, she understands that true communication goes beyond words. It requires respect, empathy, and genuine interest in other perspectives. These are the values our cultural centers will embody." He turned to her. "Layla, would you say a few words, in any language you choose?" Put on the spot, Layla took a deep breath. Then she began to speak, alternating between Arabic and English. "My father once told me that languages are bridges," she said. "They connect not just words but hearts and minds. When I was 12, I lost him, and with him I thought I'd lost those bridges. But I've come to understand that he left me with the tools to build my own." She looked around the room, making eye contact with various guests. "I believe that's what these cultural centers can do, provide tools for building bridges between East and West, between tradition and innovation, between people who might otherwise never truly understand each other." She finished in Arabic with a traditional saying her father had loved: "The difference of languages is not to separate humanity, but to enrich it." The room erupted in applause. Zayed was beaming at her, his eyes shining with something that looked very much like love. As guests began to approach them with congratulations and questions, Layla caught sight of Rashid standing off to one side. To her surprise, he gave her a small nod, not quite approval, but perhaps the beginning of respect. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of conversations and connections. By the time the last guests departed, Layla was exhausted but exhilarated. She had done it. She had stood in Zayed's world and held her own. "You were magnificent," Zayed said as they walked through the now quiet ballroom. Everyone was impressed. Minister Farouk asked specifically if you would be involved with the project. He said, and I quote, "That young woman has a gift. Don't let her get away." Layla smiled tiredly. "It was an amazing night, but also overwhelming." "Let's get some air," Zayed suggested, leading her toward the terrace doors. Outside, the night was cool and clear. Stars sparkled above them, more visible here than in the light-polluted skies of Washington. They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, both processing the events of the evening. "I should tell you something," Zayed said finally. "The job offer, it's real. The board approved the position yesterday. Director of Cultural Education for the entire project, based in Washington initially, with travel to oversee all 10 centers as they open. Layla turned to him stunned. Director, Zayed, I don't have the qualifications for something like that. Yes, you do, he insisted. You have exactly what we need: linguistic talent, cultural sensitivity, and a genuine passion for building understanding. The rest can be learned. But the salary is commensurate with the position. More than fair. He took her hands in his. This isn't charity, Layla. This isn't about us. This is about what's best for the project. She searched his face for any sign of special treatment. You really mean that, don't you? Completely. He hesitated. Though I admit I would be very happy if you accepted, both professionally and personally. And what happens to us if I do? Would I be working for you? Technically, you'd be working for the foundation that oversees the project. I'm on the board, but not your direct supervisor. He smiled slightly. I thought about that. I don't want our personal relationship to complicate your professional life. Our personal relationship, Layla repeated. What exactly is that, Zayed? What are we doing here? Instead of answering immediately, he led her to a stone bench overlooking the garden. They sat side by side, shoulders touching. When I met you, he began, I was existing, not living. Running my father's company, fulfilling obligations, doing what was expected. But something was missing. I didn't even know what, until that night you answered me in Arabic and looked at me like I was just a man, not a sheikh or a CEO. He turned to face her. What are we doing? I'm falling in love with a woman who challenges me, surprises me, makes me want to be better, and I'm hoping she might be falling in love with me too, despite our different worlds. Layla felt tears prick her eyes. I am, she admitted softly, falling in love with you, and it terrifies me. Why? Because I don't know how this works. You live here, with all this. She gestured at the mansion behind them. I live in a tiny apartment with my grandmother. How do we bridge that gap? The same way we bridge any gap, with patience, understanding, and compromise. He took her hand. I don't expect you to give up your life, Layla. I would never ask that. But maybe we can build something new together. Something that includes both our worlds. And your family. People like Rashid. Rashid will come around. He actually said something almost nice about you tonight. Zayed smiled. As for the rest of my family, those who matter already love you. Fatima hasn't stopped singing your praises. Fatima isn't family, Layla pointed out. She's been more family to me than most of my blood relatives, Zayed countered. Family isn't always about birth. Sometimes it's about choice. Layla thought about her grandmother, who had chosen to raise her after her parents died, about Mama Rosa, who had treated her like a daughter, about the family we create around ourselves when we need one. I have to go back to Washington tomorrow, she said. My grandmother. I know, Zayed nodded. I wouldn't expect you to stay. Not yet. You need time to think about the job offer, about us. I understand that. Will you come back to Washington soon? As often as you'll let me, he promised. And maybe your grandmother would like to visit Dubai someday? The medical care here is excellent, and Fatima would love to meet her. The thought of her practical, no-nonsense grandmother in this palace of luxury made Layla smile. She'd probably tell you your chandeliers need dusting. Probably, Zayed agreed with a laugh. And Fatima would agree with her. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, looking at the stars. So what happens now? Layla asked finally. Now we take it one day at a time. You go home tomorrow, think about the job offer, talk to your grandmother. I'll come to Washington next week for meetings, and to see you if you'll let me. And then? Then we figure it out together. He brushed a strand of hair from her face. I don't have all the answers, Layla, but I know that what I feel for you is real, and rare, and worth fighting for. He leaned in slowly, giving her time to pull away if she wanted. Instead, she met him halfway, their lips coming together in a kiss that felt like a promise of more time, more understanding, more love. When they finally broke apart, Layla rested her forehead against his. I should get some sleep. Early flight tomorrow. I'll walk you to your room, Zayed said, standing and offering his hand. At her door, he kissed her once more, softly. Sweet dreams, Layla Monroe. Thank you for bringing light back into my life. The next morning came too quickly. Fatima helped Layla pack her few belongings, adding a small package wrapped in silver paper. A small gift, the older woman explained, to remember Dubai. In the car to the airport, Zayed held Layla's hand tightly, as if afraid to let her go. I'll call you when you land, he promised. And every day after that, if you'll let me. I'd like that, Layla said, trying to memorize every detail of his face. At the private terminal, he walked her to the plane. This isn't goodbye, he said firmly. It's just until next time. Next week, she reminded him. Not so long. An eternity, he corrected with a small smile, but worth the wait. One last kiss, and then she was boarding the plane, looking back to see him standing on the tarmac, watching her go. Once in the air, Layla opened Fatima's gift. Inside the silver paper was a small gold frame containing a piece of Arabic calligraphy. It took her a moment to recognize that it spelled her own name, Layla. Beneath it was a note in Fatima's careful handwriting. Names have power. Yours means night in Arabic, the time when stars shine brightest. Remember that you bring light to darkness. For him, for yourself, safe journey, daughter of my heart. Tears filled Layla's eyes as she traced the delicate calligraphy with her finger. In just a few days, Dubai had gone from a foreign place to something that felt almost like another home. And Zayed had gone from stranger to someone essential to her happiness. Back in Washington, her grandmother was waiting anxiously. "Well?" she demanded as soon as Layla walked through the door. "Tell me everything. Did you like Dubai? Was it as fancy as on TV? And what about this sheikh of yours?" Layla laughed, dropping her bags to hug the older woman. "It was amazing, Grandma. Different than I expected. And Zayed is—" She paused, trying to find the right words. "He's special. Really special." "I knew it," her grandmother said triumphantly. "I could tell from the way you talked about him. So when do I get to meet him?" "Next week, actually. He's coming to Washington for meetings." Layla hesitated. "And he offered me a job. A real job, using my languages. Director of Cultural Education for a new project." Her grandmother's eyes widened. "Director? My Layla? Oh, your father would be so proud." She clutched Layla's hands. "You're going to take it, right?" "I don't know yet. It's complicated. The job would be based here initially, but with travel, and then there's us, Zayed and me. We're figuring that out." "Humph," her grandmother snorted. "What's to figure out? You love him, don't you?" "Grandma." "Don't grandma me. I may be old, but I'm not blind. I can hear it in your voice." She patted Layla's cheek. "Love isn't complicated, child. People make it complicated, but at its heart, it's the simplest thing in the world." The next few days passed in a blur as Layla returned to work at Amir's restaurant. The familiar routine felt strange now, as if she were trying to fit back into clothes she had outgrown. Zayed called every day, sometimes just to hear her voice for a few minutes between his meetings. When he finally arrived in Washington the following week, Layla felt as nervous as a teenager on a first date. He met her grandmother for dinner at their small apartment, bringing gifts that managed to be thoughtful without being ostentatious. A cashmere shawl for the older woman, who always complained of being cold, and books of Arabic poetry for Layla. To Layla's surprise, her grandmother and Zayed got along immediately, bonding over their shared love of old movies and their mutual affection for Layla. By the end of the evening, they were laughing together like old friends. "I like him," her grandmother declared after Zayed left. "He looks at you the way your father used to look at your mother, like you hang the moon and stars." In the days that followed, Layla and Zayed fell into a comfortable rhythm. He had meetings during the day while she worked her shifts at the restaurant. In the evenings, they explored Washington together, not the tourist attractions, but the small neighborhoods and hidden gems Layla loved. On his last night in town, they walked along the Potomac River, the city lights reflecting on the water. "I've been thinking about the job offer," Layla said. Zayed looked at her expectantly. "And?" "I want to take it, but on one condition." "Name it." "I need to know that I got this position because I'm qualified, not because we're—" She gestured between them. "Whatever we are." "You are more than qualified," Zayed assured her. "But if you need proof, I can arrange interviews with the entire board. They'll tell you the same thing." "Maybe not the entire board," Layla laughed. "But yes, I think I'd feel better talking to someone else involved with the project. Consider it done." He took her hands in his. "Does this mean you're accepting?" "Yes," she said, feeling a weight lift from her shoulders. "I'm accepting." The smile that spread across his face was brilliant. "You've just made me very happy, professionally and personally." "There's one more thing," Layla said. "My grandmother. I can't leave her alone, especially if I'll be traveling." "What if she came with you?" "Not all the time, but when you have longer trips to Dubai," Zayed suggested. "Fatima has already claimed the guest room next to her quarters for Layla's grandmother whenever she visits." "You've thought of everything, haven't you?" "I've tried to," he admitted. "Because this, us, it matters to me, Layla. More than anything has in a very long time." 2 months later, Layla stood in front of the door to her new office in downtown Washington. The plaque beside it read, Layla Monroe, Director of Cultural Education. Taking a deep breath, she turned the key and stepped inside. The space was perfect, bright and airy, with bookshelves waiting to be filled and a large desk by the window. On that desk sat a small package wrapped in gold paper. Curious, Layla opened it to find a beautiful piece of Arabic calligraphy in a gold frame, similar to the one Fatima had given her, but larger and more elaborate. It spelled out her name, Leela, in flowing script. Beneath it was a note in Zayed's handwriting. Layla, the one I chose. This is just the first word of our story. I'll wait wherever you write the next. With love, Zayed. She held the frame against her heart, smiling. Their story was just beginning, with all its challenges and differences. But standing in this office, the physical manifestation of a bridge between their worlds, Layla felt something she hadn't expected when she first served Zayed's table at Amir's restaurant. Hope, not just for their relationship, but for the person she was becoming. A woman who didn't have to choose between worlds, but could instead build connections between them. A woman fluent in more than just words, fluent in the language of understanding, of bridging differences, of love. She placed the calligraphy on her desk where she could see it every day. Then she picked up her phone and typed a message to Zayed. Chapter 2 begins today. I love you. L. His reply came seconds later. And I love you. In every language, in every world. Layla smiled, ready to write their story together. One word, one day, one bridge at a time. The end.